I'm joined here by Julian Escobedo. We also know him by his handle on Twitch as JulesTheHuman. And
Yeah. Hey.
I like the name you came up with because it's a callback to Adventure Time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I actually got it. I think I made it in college when I decided I want everything to be sort of the same. So like all of my handles on pretty much everything is Jules the Human. And I made like a song or something because I'm a musician as well. I
Oh,
made like a
okay.
song of Jules the Human and Athena the cat because that's my cat's name.
Oh,
So it is definitely based off of Adventure Time, but then it has like some more meanings later on in life. But yeah, it's that's my thing, and that's me. Hi, I'm here. Thank
yeah.
you for having me.
Well, it's good having you on as a guest, another fellow podcaster, and you're here
Oh yeah,
local too, right? San Antonio?
yeah, San Antonio for sure.
Yeah, so it's also good to talk to local podcasters that are here in the local San Antonio area. And what
Hmm.
me and Jules the Human or Julian are going to be talking about today is we're going to be sharing our experiences as far as like some tips that we feel that are important to know when you're starting to get into the world of podcasting because it's fast becoming one of the fastest growing trends here, not only in America but throughout the world as well, where people are wanting to get into podcasting and they're wanting to know more and more about it. And a lot of people are, I have to spend an exuberant amount of money just to get into podcasting, might throw them off. And that's not really the case. You don't really need a lot of money to start podcasting. The only thing you need to do is just use what's available to you. I mean, if all
Mm.
you have is the crappy microphone that's inside your webcam and you got something to say, then just do it. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's the thing that a lot of people kind of or get a little bit of afraid about. Is that fear. They want to come out, but they see what everybody else is doing, and they want to sound just as good. And when you're first getting into it, it's not trying to sound like everyone else. It's just trying to grow your reach, trying to grow your audience, and just be you. So share your
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, for sure. Going off of that, like whenever somebody sees me or you and they see what we got and they see like how many followers we have or numbers and stuff, it's like they're like, "Oh, I want to start podcasting. Let me look at you. Let me look at me, whatever." And they're like, "Oh my God, that let me look at that mic. Oh, that's really expensive. Oh no," but they don't know and they don't see that we've been doing this for years, you know?
Yeah.
This took time. This took much like your favorite content creator, your favorite creator out there, whoever it is, whoever's listening, whoever's watching, whoever your favorite content creator is, there that's probably like their fifth or sixth, piece of equipment that they use. That's probably like they've done it for years. They've been doing it for years. And if you look at their beginnings of stuff, then you know that they're going to start off with zero people listening. I think that's one of the first things
Yeah.
that I like to tell people because like people do ask me like, "Hey, how do I start podcasting? What are your tips or whatever?" And I want to say like you have to have it. Like you said, you can start on anything, and if you have something to say, then that's the main thing. You have to have something to say. You have to be able to say it, and think that for the first like 50 or so episodes, maybe no one's gonna listen.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say that, say whatever niche audience you're trying to reach. Hey, maybe it's just my parents, maybe it's just my friends, and that's okay because everybody starts that way. And I want to like first instill into people that it's okay to not have people listening at the beginning. It's okay to not have people watching your YouTube videos, whatever content creating you're talking about. Like, I mean, it's really about you doing it, you doing the thing, and finally saying, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record because that's way better than most of the population. Because, everybody has those friends that are like, man, I had that idea. Man, I thought about that first. Man, but did you do it? No. You got to do it. You got to do the thing first. So I don't know. You got to remember that everybody starts off at zero. Your favorite content creator started with zero people watching,
Yeah.
listening, or anything like that.
Yeah. So that's, leads me into one of the things, it all has to do with the equipment when you're first
Hmm.
starting. And one of the things that people need to understand is, like I alluded to, if you just have a microphone that's built into your crappy camera, then
Hmm.
just do it, man. Just use that
Yeah.
until you can afford money. You have some money and you can afford some better equipment. one of the other things that I started with is I started with the USB headset, just a regular little USB headset you hook up to
Hmm.
your computer, and it sounded pretty good. I still use it to this day for,
Yeah.
doing some remotes and stuff because it
Hmm.
still sounds okay. So when you're first starting off, if you have, bare minimum amount of money to get into podcasting, just use at least a USB headset, or if you want to get a little bit more extravagant, you can start using other things like USB mics. But everybody wants the Blue Yetis and they want to get
Yeah, yeah.
something, and they're a little bit more expensive. So I tend to say, look, one of the best things you can do for yourself when you're just starting off, just keep things simple.
Hmm.
Just again, maybe a USB headset that might be good enough for you for now. And as you finally, get comfortable and more or less what you want to do, some people are fine with USB headsets. Others want an actual mic. And some of the mics
Yeah.
that are really good to use when you're first starting out, I would recommend using some Behringer mics. And they don't even have to be like
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
regular mics, that you see like you're using or I'm using. You
Hmm.
can just use the regular old vocal mics. The vocal mics are
Yeah.
actually used for with people who are musicians and singers specifically.
Yeah.
But what
That
they're
that's that's like me and my dad were very fortunate
yeah
to because we're both musicians and we had mics. We have those like vocal mics or whatever.
yeah
But to kind of get into like where I'm at with podcasting and how I sort of started, me and my dad started Texas Music Spotlight. So we would interview musicians
oh okay
around Texas. We used a Twitch sort of copy called blab.im, and it was really cool because we can sort of Skype like this, and in the app you had like a little chat so that people can join in with their Twitter account and then talk in the chat. And we would have artists play some songs for us. We would interview them, and that's sort of how we started. It was just us, and then interview somebody with a camera, sort of like what we're doing here.
yeah
And but then I started like wanting to do more local bands, more local musicians, and I was like, well, we don't really have like something on the go or whatever. And the way that I would do it is I had my iPhone, and I had my
ah
iPhone. It's a fantastic
yeah
starter mic. If you have not, you already have a phone, you can already vocal record memos or anything. So the way I would do it was just have my phone to my mouth and then give it to the other person. And that may sound dumb right now. That may sound dumb to you, but it was good enough and people
yeah
listened. And if you have something to say, like we said earlier, if you have something to say and you know people have some
just
sort
do
of
it
interest in it, just do it. So
yeah
that's how I started doing remote stuff, was just by having a phone and doing it like that, get the audio, send it to the computer,
yeah
and then change it to MP3 and then fix it up a little bit there. Super simple. And then
yeah
we would publish it. So,
Yeah, well, the microphone on an Apple, or any Apple device,
oh yeah.
especially iPhones, it's really good. So you can
Yeah.
even use the microphone on your phone.
Hmm.
Nowadays you have a lot of software. When you're signing up for some of these free services to start hosting your podcast, to start uploading them. Like me specifically, I use Anchor, and if you want to use
Hmm.
Anchor, you can record using the app. Try to keep things simple. You can have people come and join you if you're wanting to have some guest on but do everything remotely. You could use Anchor, and then they can come on and you can just use your phone and everybody can get on, and at least it'll sound decent enough, when
Yeah,
you're
that
first
that's
starting
that
off.
that's definitely something I've recommended to begin with, like because Anchor's been around for a while and it
Yeah.
is definitely picking up traction as of recently. But they do have some really cool features, like you can call people, you can interview people, sort of. You can they do have some audio things where you can make the audio sound better. You can
Yeah.
have like little music in it, and you can add a bunch of different stuff. So Anchor is something that is, excuse me, really simple, and I it's free.
Yeah,
Like what?
it's free.
Like that's wild. That's insane. It's all on your phone. You can do that. And yeah, we just gotta, get rid of the stigma that a lot of people have that, okay, I want to start a podcast. Okay, I need to go drop $300 or whatever on equipment. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You don't have to do that at all. If you have the will, you can. Like when I started my YouTube channel, uh, I I recorded from my phone as well.
Yeah.
The iPhone camera, fantastic, recorded sideways. I edited, recorded, and uploaded all from my phone. It's really easy
Yeah.
out there. Like it's really easy to just make things, and people think that you need to have this intense stuff, and you don't. It's not. There's no gate. There's no, with the technology we have right now, you can do a lot. You can do so much more than you could do 5, 10 years ago, and it's all in our pocket. And we just got to realize it and put in a little bit of time to figure it out.
Yeah, one tip though, if you're doing Facebook Live and you're don't be that guy that one guy has his phone, in this kind of position and the other guy has
uh,
his phone like this, and
yeah, yeah,
because then one of y'all is going to come out sideways and the other one's
yeah,
going to
for
come out
sure.
perfect. You know what? Just hold your phone sideways, like this. And if both of
Yeah,
you guys have the phone in the same orientation and you're having horizontal, you both are going to get a real nice, half screen each, so everybody can see
yeah,
both of you guys. If you want to do the vertical position where it's like this, make sure you both are using the phone in
yeah.
the same
Both do it
position, because if not, it's going to come out all wonky. So that's
for
one
sure.
one free tip there you all can
Yeah, there you go.
you can use to get better. Another thing is, there's a lot of services out there, because one of the big things when you're starting out podcasting is getting guests in, and then a lot of people have trouble saying, "Hey, I'm going to have a guest on. How do I get them in remotely? How do I capture the audio?" There's several different types of free video conferencing software that's out there that you can use. Skype being one of them. It's old fashioned, I know. I use it extensively, but I use specifically I use Skype for creators. There's a different version. Don't use the crappy one that comes with Windows. Go out and do a little search. Skype does offer Skype for creators. It has something called NDI. Look into that. It's really good. It allows you to share the individual windows of the guests that you have on, and you can put it in software like OBS Studio or some other type of streaming software that you might be using. It works great. It's free. Another thing I use, you can use Discord for audio. It's great to have guests come
Hmm.
in. Sounds really good. The codec they
Yeah,
use, it's an Opus codec for Discord. Sounds amazing. So,
yeah. I use Discord a whole lot,
yeah.
especially because like I'm deeply into like gaming and stuff. So we would do that, and we would record video and audio podcasts through Discord as well. Like there's like a few different bots that'll
Yeah.
record the video and record just audio or whatever like that. I think Google, what's the Google one called?
Google
There's a Google.
Hangouts.
Google Hangouts is one
Yeah.
too. So all those are pretty simple. You just got to put maybe an hour into it, or maybe a couple hours if you're not tech savvy,
Yeah.
but it is there and it is available that are free. All these are pretty, for the most part, they're free
Yeah,
uh,
they're free.
or
One
accessible.
Yeah, another one that I use too is I use something called Clean Feed. Clean Feed is free. You can
Hmm.
have multiple people join you, multiple guests, and you can record it in high quality. The only thing is with Clean Feed, you have to make sure that everybody is either has a really strong Wi-Fi connection, and if they
Hmm.
don't, they have to turn that Wi-Fi off, because you want to use your phone's data. A lot of guests now, they use their phone to call in remotely because it might be
Uh,
on the go, or basically that's the top of the technology that they have available to them is the phone. So, by all means, tell them, hey, if you're going to do this and you notice that there's an issue, turn off the Wi-Fi. Just use the phone's data, and sometimes that cleans up everything right there.
for
Um,
sure.
so, those are just some of the things that I've used. And one other thing I can recommend, if you're wanting some free video conferencing software that's not Skype, looking at something called daily.co. It's something that you can set up for free. You can even record, I believe, the video and the audio at the same time. You can have multiple people call in. And another thing that's really big with this video conferencing software is what makes it easy for people is when you can call in and you have a call in number and a code. So everyone
Hmm.
can just dial in using the phone. They call in. You can do the same thing as being the host. You call in, you put in the code, you can record all the audio. Everybody sounds amazing. You don't have to worry about, oh, you got to download this app, you got to do that. Those call in numbers sometimes save the day. So it just, at the beginning, just make things as simple as possible for yourself.
For sure. And something else that I would definitely recommend, and something that I still use to this day, and that is free for sure, is Audacity
Oh,
to
yeah.
edit audio. If you're just doing audio, or if you want to like tweak audio, or if you want to change it a little bit, there's a free software called Audacity, Audacity, and it's insane how amazing and how good you
Yeah.
can make audio just in there. I mean, they have plugins that you could probably pay for, but just using the basic version of it, it's just audio. You can change things to MP3. I have done podcasts like that, and if I'm just doing audio podcasts, I edit in there. You can add in different tracks. You can multi-track all that stuff. While it's not as like extensive if you were trying to make music on it, you're just talking. It's just voice, and then maybe like an intro,
Yeah.
outro, some music, maybe throw in an ad or something like that. Multiple tracks for that, but it's really easy to use and super accessible if you're just doing audio. If you're just thinking about doing audio on the computer, and I even like um, I edited audio in Audacity, and then I uploaded it to what was the app we were talking about earlier? Anchor.
Okay.
I You can edit from Audacity and then like upload it to Anchor as well. So like you can do that way if you want. A little bit harder than just on your phone, but yeah, you can like throw those MP3s anywhere if you're just doing audio.
Yeah, one of the things you can do is like you can get the MP3 if you're on the go and you want to upload your audio file later on. You can put it on something like Google Drive, and then from there you can just download it to your phone, and then boom, you can just upload it right away to Anchor. I'm sure any other podcasting platform as well. So it makes things easier for you. Once you get that
Mhm.
hard file, save it to the cloud because stranger things have happened. Your computer craps out and you're like, damn, there goes my episode that I just recorded,
Mhm.
So always have a
Oh
backup.
yeah. And something on the whole podcasting thing is not to try not to get discouraged when things happen, because I'm sure I mean, I'm just going to assume, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. You've had audio issues.
Oh yeah.
You've had episodes mess up for some reason. I've had all of the issues as well over this past couple of years. Like it happens, and to just not get discouraged and to just keep it going. I read somewhere on Facebook, one of the podcasts I follow, they were just starting out, and they had some audio issues, so they couldn't release their first episode, I think, and they had to go in and get the guest again, and they're still doing it, and that's how you do it. That's fantastic that they didn't just like, well, okay, I guess we're gonna stop podcasting. It's like, no, you can do it over. You don't get discouraged. It's gonna happen. Just know that problems are gonna happen, and it's how you deal with them and getting over it. Because I mean, you wanna create something, obviously,
Yeah.
so do it. Why not?
Yeah, so speaking of creating things, when I
Hmm.
live stream, and I'm live streaming right now on multiple platforms, I'm using
Hmm.
something called Restream.io. Works great. They have a free version and they have a paid version. Each one has its, goods and as far as the pros and the cons, the good points and the bad points about them. What's
Hmm.
good about the free version of Restream.io is that you can already use it to go ahead and use it to restream, like the name says, to multiple platforms, being Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can, I believe Mixer is part of it as well. So
Hmm.
you have a lot of different, streaming platforms that you can broadcast, to. The minus to that, or the con to it, is you're limited, especially for Facebook. You can only stream to your actual Facebook profile, not to a page. If
Mm.
you want to stream to a page, you got to pay, I think it was $20 a month to
Oh,
stream to a
okay.
specific page, or even to groups. You have to pay for that because it uses a different type of, you know, I believe it's kind of like a secure thing that they've done with Facebook, so it's kind of switched the things up for people across the board who like to restream. So
Hmm.
Restream.io does make things a lot easier for you. But like I said, there's a plus and a con to the free and the paid version. The paid version really doesn't have any cons. There's a lot of good in that because you can even stream to multiple platforms without even having to be, let's say, using something else like a go between. Like me specifically, I use OBS. Other people use
Hmm.
Streamlabs. There's
Yeah.
different types of software out there. But one of the things that I'd like to talk about that can get the job done for you guys is something that I discovered and I recommend to a lot of podcasters who want to do, live streaming or even multi-streaming. Look at it as something called StreamYard. StreamYard has a free version and they have a paid version. Makes things a lot easier, and if you're one of these guys who used Be Live in the past and you like the way that the comments are able to be flashed on the screen, so you can, hey, this
Hmm.
guy's pretty funny, or I like this comment, I like this reply to what I just asked, you can give that person, their 5 minutes of fame. And StreamYard lets you do that for free. So there's a lot of good things you can do, and I'd recommend that. And there's also another one called Lightstream. That one, I
Hmm.
believe, is in a partnership with Microsoft. So there's a lot of other things you can do in there. Each one works a little differently, but they're both
For sure.
free. Is there something else that you use? I believe there's something that you use that you're very popular on right now. So let us know your experience with Twitch.
For sure. Yeah. So I just started Twitch streaming in March, I think, and I was podcasting for a long time. Let's go back a little bit, I guess. So me and my dad did the Texas Music Spotlight for a really long time, and we even got like recognized as one of the top podcasts in Texas, I guess, by Texas Monthly.
Okay.
I think in 2017. And we changed the name SA Sounds, so it's like San Antonio Sounds. We did more local stuff. I did a gaming, movies, TV show podcast with a few friends called Nerdy Things Podcast. I currently do Everything is Fine, a Good Place podcast about NBC's hit TV show, The Good Place.
Okay.
So that's my podcasting sort of thing. I did YouTube for a really long time, got a whole lot of subscribers. And then in March of this year, I started Twitch streaming because I got a PC, a really nice PC, finally. And then now I started Twitch streaming. So you mentioned the one that I use already called Streamlabs because I had already done video stuff. I had done YouTube, content creating. I did it using like Adobe stuff to video edit and all that because I was trying to produce something with multiple clips and all that. When I wanted to start streaming, it's all live stream. It's all, one continuous thing. So I downloaded OBS, and that was my first time like dealing with OBS because my dad would run all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would do a lot of the audio. He would like figure out the video, do all this stuff because we would do Texas Music Spotlight live on Facebook for a really long time as well. And he would have camera switches and he would do all that stuff. And I would just, be the co-host for him, do the audio stuff as well. So I opened OBS and I was like, wow, this is really this. I don't know. For me, it was like really daunting because I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
know how to
user
deal.
friendly. It's not
No,
user
it's
friendly.
no, not user friendly at all when you're just jumping in. And I watched some tutorials and I was like, um, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So I checked out Stream Elements. There's another one called Stream Elements for it's mainly Twitch stuff, but it is like what you were saying earlier, kind of like a Streamlabs stuff. But I use Streamlabs for sure. I did try Stream Elements. It does have some different stuff on there, but I found out Streamlabs is the one for me, and it has everything that I wanted. And I can do like scenes and all that, same as OBS, but it's connected to OBS, so I can like it made it super user friendly for me as a starter. It's like, hey, what do you want on your stream? Okay, here it is. Boom, boom, boom. Just there it is. All right. It seemed a lot more user friendly. So if you want to start streaming just like a single cam, just you, maybe, there are podcasts as well of just one person talking about a thing. A lot of comedians have podcasts of just them ranting about whatever, and that's okay too. You can do that sort of podcast. You don't need a guest or anything. So if you wanted more of like a single, just by yourself sort of deal, and you thought OBS like me, which is totally fine. If you thought OBS was not user friendly at all, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, there's a lot of them. But Streamlabs is one I use. And yeah, I found that the community is super fun. It's really a reflection of you, the community on Twitch, but there is a market for it, and there is a lot more people into it right now. Ever since, like, I don't know if you've heard of Ninja. Anybody out there knows who
Yeah.
Ninja is? He went on like ESPN. He talked about he really made Twitch more mainstream. It's not as mainstream as you would think. With 15, they say that on Twitch they give us their info that 15 million daily users are on Twitch, but still it is very difficult for me to get somebody to click my Twitch link. You know what I mean? If someone sent you a YouTube video, if someone's like, "Oh, here's a YouTube video," you'll be like, "Oh, okay, let me just, click it and watch
Yeah.
it." But if I send somebody a Twitch link, they're like, "Oh, I don't know what that is," or like, "Oh, I need like an account or something?" And it's like there's still a little bit of latency there on how the everybody's receiving it, but it's
Yeah.
getting there.
It's like a
Um,
stigma because when you say
yeah.
Twitch or you say Mixer,
Hmm.
everybody automatically thinks, "Oh, this is something that's set up for gamers." So they think
Yeah.
this is a platform that's just for gaming only, but
No.
there's so much more happening on there as you alluded to.
For sure. There is. It started off as gaming, yes, for sure. But then up in maybe a year or two ago, they started this. just chatting area where you can do just talking. There's people that do ASMR. I don't know if anybody's familiar with
I know
ASMR.
what
They
that
do a lot
is.
of all that stuff. Yeah, it's that there's big communities on there as well. So it's not just gaming. You can do pretty much whatever. There are live streamers that go about their day. There was a content creator called Andy Milonakis.
Oh, I know
He
him.
had a MTV. Yeah, he had an
Yeah.
MTV TV show a long time ago. He's on Twitch now. He's been on Twitch for a really long time, and I think it was last summer, he went to Tokyo for like a month or something, and it was just him backpacking around Tokyo with a camera in his face with the chat up. He had like a backpack full of like a server and all that stuff, so he can do it just live. And there are people that just go through their life live on Twitch or Mixer or something,
Yeah.
and there's a chat and there's people watching them. So it's definitely a stigma that we kind of have to break. Yes, I do mainly gaming, but like just before this podcast happened, I'll give a peek into what I do. Just before this, I was playing Rainbow Six Siege, but then uh, for like the last hour, all me and my community did was watch trailers for new video games. I was like, hey, can y'all help me pick which game y'all want me to play next? And they're
Yeah.
like, okay. So we just went and I got suggestions. We watched trailers together. We were like, oh, this one looks pretty cool. Maybe we'll do that. Oh, that's a lot of money. Never mind. Or, we're just, talking that way.
Yeah.
So it's really not just gaming. It could be gaming, but a lot more people are doing so many different things on there.
Yeah,
It's
when
really
it comes
interesting.
when it comes to gaming, a lot of people have this stigma where, oh, I'm just watching somebody play a game. It's more than that. It's the connections you're making.
Hmm.
As you stated, what were you doing? Before you came on here, you were talking with your followers. With the
Hmm.
people in that community about, hey, what game am I gonna, what should I play next? As you stated, you were coming together watching
Hmm.
trailers. That
Yeah.
that's a connection. That's like something you would do with your friends. Hey, I'm gonna go to
Hmm.
the mall. Hey, I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna go browse and look at the games and let's decide. It's the same concept. Only you have a lot more people that are online giving you advice and interacting with you.
Hmm.
So
And one thing that I do want to say, I'm not good at all. I'm not the Twitch person, only because I've only been doing it since March, but I
yeah,
know what I know, and I know everything that I've done in content creating, and I'm applying that to Twitch. And from me just starting this year, some things that I can recommend as well is that, uh, yeah, it's really interesting because I thought, as a society, we were gonna get away from live or scheduled content. So like, everybody would gather around the television. Oh, this show's coming on at 7 p.m. We got to watch it. Back before me even, they're like, "Oh, we got to watch this cuz it's never going to come on again. This is the time that it's on." And we're gonna watch this television show, and it's like, oh, or there's this radio show is only on at this time, and then that kind of went away when YouTube came out, when Spotify and all these other services came out, and it's Netflix even. Oh, I can watch this movie whenever. Okay, that's fine. I can watch this whenever. Things like that. Services came out like that, and that was the way we were doing it. That's the new way to do it. But with Twitch, I'm saying, hey, I'm going live 2 p.m. Central every Thursday through Sunday. This is where I'm going to be. And people are like, oh, I have to be there. I have to be there. It's a really interesting paradigm shift that I didn't think would happen because, yes, you can rewatch the video. Twitch saves your video and you can rewatch it, but everybody wants to be there live and give their input. And everybody wants to be there while you're there.
it's the
And
experience. They want to be part of
yeah,
the experience.
yeah, I thought I would hate Twitch. I thought I would hate watching Twitch streams. I'm like, why do I have to be here at this time? Why are they only live for 3, 5 hours? Like, why are they only doing it now? This is weird. Why don't, it's you, like, why not just have it like YouTube? Just put it up and I can watch it whenever. But it's like, oh, this is a totally different experience. And it's
Yeah.
really cool. I love it.
Yeah, one of the things that I was going to talk about next is you have to, in the beginning, when you're doing a podcast, you're looking at all these other people who have had success in the industry. And you might model your show after what somebody else is doing, and you're like, hey, they have a really good nerd podcast or a geek podcast, or
Hmm.
they have a really good, movie review podcast where they do everything that involves the movie industry and entertainment industry, from reviewing movies to trailer reactions to, reviewing the latest stuff coming out on the streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, or even Disney Plus that's going to be coming out pretty
Oh
soon.
yeah. Hmm.
So you have all these guys doing all these things, and everybody was like, you know what? I want to go ahead and do that as well, and I want to have as much success as they do. But the thing is that right now the market is so oversaturated with people doing all these things
Hmm.
that you're probably going to get, lost somewhere in the shuffle. What I recommend, people do, especially when they're first starting out. For example, I'm doing a sports podcast that's had
Hmm.
some success,
Sure.
and what I looked at in the industry when I first started doing this is like, I have a passion talking about San Antonio Spurs. It's something that I've grown up with, being a Mexicano, a Latino here in the culture of San
Yeah.
Antonio. You're born
Oh
into the
yeah.
Spurs family.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of
Going
experiences.
honking and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going down Commerce,
Uh-huh.
after a Spurs win in the playoffs, being there celebrating on the streets of San Antonio with everybody else who's a Spurs fan after they
Hmm.
won their 5 NBA championships. It's an experience, something that you don't forget, and you make a lot of friends. So I
Hmm.
had a lot of experience doing this, and when I first wanted to start off, I'm like, I want to do a sports podcast, but I need to, really focus in on my niche. If I
Hmm.
do an NBA podcast, because I have a passion for everything and anything basketball, especially NBA basketball, I'm going to get lost in the shuffle. There's a lot of people, 1,000 people out there that are doing NBA podcasts. What I need to do is start looking into how can I be very specific. So I started saying, I have a passion about the San Antonio Spurs. I know the players, I know the culture, I know the people here in San Antonio. Let me go ahead and be very specific and be very niche, get my niche
Sure.
down, and I'm going to do a Spurs podcast. There's not very many of them. So that's why I've
No.
had some success, because I narrowed it down. I kept at it. Yes, I did have interesting guests on from time to time, but one of the things that I did is try to stick to some type of a schedule.
For
That's the
sure.
important thing. Find your niche, find out where you fit in, what's your passion, what are you really passionate about, stick with that, and then do your show around that, and then do a show like once a week if you can. If you want to
Oh
do it
yeah.
more than that, then as time allows, by all means, go ahead and do 3 shows a week if you have the time,
Hmm. Yeah, those two main things are definitely something that I do recommend. Like find a little bit more what you're actually wanting to talk about and sticking to a schedule. So I want to hit that niche portion of it. So with Texas Music Spotlight slash SA Sounds, as it's called now, is like super niche. It's musicians in Texas. This
Yeah.
That's the only stipulation there. And when we started Nerdy Things podcast, yes, we did want to just be a broad sort of podcast with me, Tim, and Kevin. Those are the 3 people on the podcast. But the same group, us 3, we started Everything is Fine, a Good Place podcast. Now, that podcast is specifically about a TV show, specifically just a TV show, The Good Place on NBC. And there was only like one. The show itself actually started their own podcast, and then maybe one more podcast after that. And we're like, why is no one talking about this TV show? So we've seen a lot more success in the more niche podcast because it is about something specific. And if you are interested in something, if you're interested in anything, there are 5, 10, 20 people that are interested in the same thing in this world. You know what I mean? Somebody can say, I like this type of pony or whatever. I don't know. I like this type of something. And it's like, oh, nobody else likes it. Maybe no one else in your city likes it, but a lot of people in the world like it. And most likely they're going to be listening to podcasts. So you can, build a community around that. We built a Facebook group with all the Good Place people, all the fans, and we've seen major success in that one. And we bring them over to Nerdy Things podcast, so it's like supplementing the bigger, broader podcast that we have as well. So that's on the niche thing. That's on the niche topic you were talking about. Like find your thing. You find the Spurs. That's
Yeah.
super cool. That like, oh, I'm gonna go. I like the Spurs too. Okay, cool. I like this TV show. Oh, they're gonna talk about the TV show. They're gonna talk about the Spurs. Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. As far as sticking to a schedule, I think that is more important than a lot of people give credit to. We did stick to a schedule when we were live streaming on Texas Music Spotlight, live every Sunday, whatever time. And I do try and stick to a schedule on Twitch because people that like you, they want to watch you. People that listen to you, they want to listen to you. And they want to know when it's going to happen, and that gives them comfort. That gives me comfort to know, oh, Thursday's coming up. I know this podcast is coming out. I can't wait. Like, that's me as a consumer. Me as a podcast listener, I'm like, yo, I can't wait for Friday because my favorite podcast is coming out or whatever. And that's what I say. That's what I'm like, oh, what's today? Oh, I got to listen. I got to see if he updated the thing. And I get kind of weird whenever the podcast isn't there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we've gotten like messages like, oh, where's the podcast? Like, oh, it's uploading late. What's going on? Are you okay? Is everything okay? And it's like, yeah, people want to see you. And especially having on Twitch now, it's really cool to see my regular people, to build a relationship with them, because they're there every day, or they're there every Thursday, they're there every Saturday or something. And people that like you want to like you. Let them like you, and build a schedule, whatever schedule that is. If it only works for you once every 2 weeks, sure, stick to that though. But usually podcasts are like once a week, 2 times a week if you want. But if you have a schedule, try and stick to it, because people want to depend on you, and you're supplying them content. And think about that. People are spending time on you, and that's important to them. And time is the most important thing to somebody in our life. You can spend as much money, whatever, but you can't get time back. So allow them to have you in their life.
Yeah, they become part of what you're doing, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Once you start building your following, you have your fans, your followers. These are the people who are going to be supporting you, downloading your podcast or watching your live streams. You want to, make sure that you recognize them. That's another thing that's very important. Is you're saying, you know what, I appreciate you. I'm being very humble. I'd never thought I'd have the success I did without your support, and always take time and thank everybody who's listening. We're constantly, as human beings, evolving. We're always learning something new. So nobody knows everything. Nobody's an expert on everything. You might know some things, and it's a good thing to pass on knowledge, but it's also a good thing to be a humble person and recognize the people who have gotten you where you are and say thank you to them, and that's what I do. I appreciate everybody who's helped me, and who has helped me get to where I'm at right now. I can't thank everybody enough for that. So don't ever forget that,
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And, like I said, your first 50 of anything, your first pretty much 50 of any kind of content, podcast, YouTube videos, live streams, your first 50 of anything, maybe not a lot of people are going to hear it, see it, watch it, whatever. I know when we first started the first podcast, the Texas Music Spotlight, when we first started that, excuse me, there was like 10 at the most. 10 people watching, 10 people listening or whatever. And then it started growing gradually, and you keep going. And it would grow. Like the first 10 podcasts were like, oh, okay, not a lot of people are watching, not a lot of people listening, whatever. And it was even more so when I started Twitch, because of that stigma we were talking about earlier. Because I'm trying something new, I would have to talk to myself a lot. I talked to, I was live, but I was talking to nobody. I was talking to a fat zero. You can see how many people are viewing you. 0 people for a really long time. 0, 1. I'd ask my friends to come. My friends would be in there. And it's like, oh, man, you just got to, and then once it starts picking up, it starts picking up. When I went in today, there was already a ton of people waiting for me. People were trying to see who was going to comment first. That was so amazing to see. Like, oh, I'm first. Oh, no, this person was first. I was like, oh, man, you missed it. It's really cool now to look back and say, like, wow, I have people that want to consume my content. But it wasn't always like that. So you got to make sure you appreciate that now whenever you get there. Make sure they know that you appreciate them as much as they appreciate you for making the thing.
Yeah, another thing is that what I was talking about, because I want to get back a little bit to the niche, talking about finding your niche in the industry, especially when you're podcasting, is, specifically if you're doing a podcast that revolves around entertainment, movies, things of that nature.
Hmm.
everybody, will go out there and they have fan reactions. I've seen all these videos. I'm going to
Yeah, for
react to this
sure.
trailer, and you have people that really don't like the superhero genre.
Hmm.
They're not informed. They don't know the story behind this, like an MCU movie, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like
Hmm.
Avengers Endgame, that just came out on DVD and Blu-ray earlier this week. And they'll do a fan reaction to that trailer when it first came out. And they're like, "Oh yeah, let's check out this Endgame trailer and oh
Hmm.
yeah, look what's going on with that guy, that robot suit." And it's like it's cool, that they like the trailer, but if you really don't know anything that's happening, you don't know the backstory, you're not informed about the characters, do a hard pass on that. You want to be able to talk about movies. You want to be able to talk about something that you have a passion for and that you're knowledgeable about, because
Hmm.
you want to have clout. You want your word to be worth something. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what other people, specifically what other people in the media have to say about you. What really matters at the end of the day is, what does your fan base say about you? You want clout, you want your words to mean something, then be knowledgeable about your source subject for one, and then
Oh yeah,
everybody will know, hey, you do know what you're talking about. I like this guy.
sure.
He's informing me about things that I want to know
Hmm.
about. He doesn't know anything, you know?
Yeah, I will never talk about something that I don't know about. And if
Yeah.
we do get into like something that I know about, I definitely will be like, well, first off, I don't know anything about this subject, but let me give some sort of opinion on it because you're asking, you got to find what it is, and you just don't want to be like, oh, everybody likes Marvel movies. Well,
Yeah.
let me go talk about this movie. Oh, oh, I saw this one video. He has 1 million views. Oh, I got to talk about it too, because maybe I'll get that. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe you don't know about the thing. Maybe you don't know about classical trombone. Like, I'm a classical trombonist. Like, that's
Okay.
what I do. Not a lot of people have that. You can't just come at me and start like, you can't just fake it on screen, because I'll know
Yeah.
you're faking it. I'll be like, oh yeah, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So then that instantly makes all of your words worthless. If you talk about something you don't know, then that makes your audience start to not believe you and not, take your content seriously. So that is definitely, find your niche and figure it out, and don't fake it. Don't
Yes, don't
fake what it
fake it.
is. Because, like,
Exactly.
yeah, you can follow the trends, but trends come and go. Like, who cares what, yeah, my Black Panther YouTube video got a whole lot of views and stuff, but I'm not a movie review
Yeah.
YouTuber. I did it once because I liked it. I'm not gonna keep doing it, and my fans will know, okay, this is a one-off. Okay, it's cool. But like, I'm not gonna pretend to be a certain thing. I'm not gonna pretend put my content out there to be a certain thing if I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just be authentic to yourself, because we're all unique. Like, a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people don't think their story is interesting, but it is, because we are all unique. People are like, I'm not going to start a podcast because no one wants to hear me talk about it. It's like, well, talk about what you have, a unique family experience, what happened in your life. You can tell stories. Like, that's something I had to get over when I started Twitch. I was like, man, I have to talk for like 3 hours at a
Oh
time,
man.
more than 3 hours. I got to be interesting for 3 hours. And it's like, no, people want to hear your stories. Like, I tell stories all the time. They say a key word, and I'm like, oh yeah, in high school, something, something, something. And it's like, oh, that's content. That's what content is. You're telling your stories because everybody is interesting. And you got to realize that you're interesting as well. And you can tell your stories, you can give your experiences, and it'll be great. It'll be fine. People want that stuff.
Yeah, you got to find your voice. That's the thing,
Yeah.
You once you find your niche, you got to find your voice. The only way you're going to find your voice and let your fans and your viewers see who you are is by sharing your personality. Let it come out
Mhm.
on air. You're quirky, you're funny, you're dorky. You tell bad jokes. Well, make it part of
Mhm.
your show. The show is supposed to be compiled of the best parts of you. The
Mhm.
best parts of your persona. And that's the stigma that a lot of people have when they're first starting out trying to do a podcast. They're afraid to share who they really are with everyone else
For
because
sure.
they're afraid of being judged. And what human isn't? But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, if you really want to push in the industry, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Once you start
Like,
growing out of it, you really do grow.
For sure. And like me and you right now, I'll give like a peek into like what happened with us. Uh, we met maybe 5 minutes before we started, and
Yeah.
because we've been doing it for so long, we know how it works.
Yep.
We know to give ourselves, we know to be our authentic self. We know all this stuff. It's if you're watching us and you're like, man, they make it look so easy. It's because we've been doing it for a long time, and
Yeah.
we just met. Hey, questions like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. Okay, cool, whatever, whatever. We're going to go for it. And that takes time. And we already know who our ourselves are. We already know
Yep.
our voices. Like I'm Jules the Human. I know what I stand for. I know what I know, and I'm gonna say it. So it's like it does take time if you're watching us and thinking like, man, I'll never be like that. It's like, well, I thought that too a year ago. I thought that too like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would be able to be speaking like this, speaking so well. Like that's another thing why I started podcasting, why I started YouTube videos, why I started Twitch streaming, because I was like a massive introvert and I still am sort of, but I was really bad at speaking. That's the main reason why I started doing it, because I can't get my thoughts together in my head, and like I would stutter. I stutter a lot, but have you heard me stutter recently?
No.
No. Like it's amazing. Like I started podcasting and I was like, man, I got to get better. And another thing that I wanted to get into was you got to be critical of yourself.
Oh yeah.
In the first podcast, I was like, hey, yeah, and I kept saying, uh, and I would listen back. I would listen back to the podcast. I'm like, wow, how can I be better? You have to be really critical of yourself if you want to be, sort of successful, or if you want people to listen. You have to be critical of your content. You have to listen to your content. You have to watch your content. So I started podcasting and I was like, man, I want to get better at speaking. I want to get better at putting the ideas in my head out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better through podcasting. I've gotten better through YouTube, and I've definitely gotten better being live for 3-5 hours, talking and playing a video game, multitasking. Like right now, this is easy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, get wins on Fortnite right now. I'm just talking to you. This is so easy. But Twitch streaming, I'm playing a video game and trying to be interesting and trying to talk to chat and read what people are saying.
Yeah.
And that helped me multitask. So maybe you can think of it that way. If you're like, man, I don't speak well. I need to get better at getting my ideas out, because that's how it was for me. I started podcasting. I've gotten better at finding my voice, like we're saying, and using that in my real life now.
Yeah.
So you can use that as a tool. You can use podcasting as a tool to help yourself, which is really cool, which is the way it's helped me a whole lot.
Yeah, that's it. It's helped me as well. In the
Hmm.
beginning, you're trying to start your podcast. You're not very well spoken. You're
Hmm.
very, let's say, nervous. You're very
Oh yeah.
apprehensive of trying to, let's say, tackle a certain subject. That might be, a little bit controversial, especially with me. Being critical of certain players. I'm afraid how receptive the fans are going to be to
Yeah.
that.
Being
Because
critical of real people.
yeah, exactly.
And you have to give your opinion on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to kind of take the fan out of the equation and say, you know what, if my team isn't, really playing up to par, I got to call them out and say, hey, this is what's happening. Take
Hmm.
that fanboy out of the equation, period, and just come off as somebody who's wanting to cover the team from a professional standpoint. So, all these things come with time. You got to just get out there for one. I know there's people probably going to watch and they're like, well, I want to start a podcast and I want to, do these things. And, basically, we have a big community here in San Antonio. And this
Hmm.
is the start, hopefully, of us having more and more people on this show, and it's not really a show right now. It's just me and you sharing some tips, and I'd like
For
to
sure.
keep on continuing to do this with other podcasters here
Hmm.
in San Antonio, because we have a big following here. We have a lot of talent that's local.
Hmm.
And I think the community needs to really start coming together and really supporting one another and helping everybody through the experience of being, a podcaster, being a content creator. And not only that, but everybody getting behind one another and supporting one another is just going to make everybody want to grow and go out there and deliver better content.
Oh
So,
yeah. Definitely when I see people doing things, that hypes me up to make my content better. Like
Yeah.
we were saying, we got to be critical of how you can be better. Like for me, Twitch streaming at the beginning, that was not how I wanted it to look. That wasn't, I had a different camera, I
Yeah.
had a different mic. That's not how I wanted to look, but I was critical, and I was like, hey, how can I make this better by myself? How can I be more interesting? How can I get more people in here? So I was critical of myself. And whenever I see people doing something better or doing anything in general, like when a friend sends me like, hey, I just started a podcast, I'll be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing it. And I'll check it out, and I'll get something from them. Like I'll get like one or two things. It's like, oh, I could do that now. Like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I can do it that way. And seeing other people grow, especially in the community, especially in your local community, that definitely can help you as well. And it's like sort of what Twitch and Mixer are going on right now. There's like a huge thing, a huge battle going on right now because Twitch's lead most watched pretty much streamer,
Ninja.
just Ninja,
Yeah.
went to Mixer exclusively. And that shook up so many things, and people are going to Mixer, people are checking out Mixer and stuff, and Mixer's like, hey, we got a really good service, we have a lot of good services, check it out. So now it's in Twitch's ballpark to get better. And the competition, quote unquote, the competition, there's still going to be people watching on both, but the quote unquote competition that started is going to make both platforms better.
Yeah.
So think of it like that. You and your friends start quote unquote rival podcasts, or whatever that means. Y'all both start podcasts sort of at the same time, and y'all can grow together, and y'all make
Yeah.
each other better. Like, hey, I really liked what you did there. How did you do it? Hey, I really liked this episode of something because you said this. I think I want to do that. Like, I think I want to, I like that opinion. I want to do this. I like the way you see things, or whatever. And seeing what everybody makes in your community can only make the entire community better.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. One of the other things that I kind of wanted to touch on, more importantly than, yes, coming out, finding your voice, we've already touched on that, finding your niche, equipment, start off with some of the equipment that you can afford when you're first starting, podcasting and all that. But as you move on and you start, really getting a following, and you start, kind of dialing things in as far as the audio editing goes, one
Hmm.
of the most important things is always promotion. How am I going to promote my
Hmm.
podcast? There's a lot of tools, there's a lot of resources out there. We're kind of running low on time, so I'm not going to be able to
Sure.
touch on those. But maybe next time when we, go ahead and talk again, maybe with something that we can hint on, and let people know, how is it that you, promote your podcast? What are the tools that you're using? What are the successes that you've had, and using some of these, tools? As far as me, I use a lot of audiograms. I use something called Headliner. It's a
Okay.
headliner.app. It's free. You can upload your audio in there. You can upload an excerpt from the actual podcast, your new
Hmm.
episode. And the excerpt meaning sometimes you just want to take one of the most interesting sound bites, one of the most interesting pieces of your
Hmm.
podcast, and use that as a promo, use it as a teaser, and mix it into headliner.app, the Headliner app. And what it does is it makes that little waveform, and you can
Hmm.
add a picture in there. You can tell people, hey, you can listen to my podcast now on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And then when you're going ahead and sharing that across social media, Facebook, Twitter,
Hmm.
Instagram, whatever it might be, you can always put a link to where they can listen to your podcast right now. Put the link
Hmm.
to Spotify, put the link to, Apple
Sure.
Podcast, and just say something real, short and sweet to the point. Hey, this is the new episode. This is what I'm talking about. This is my guest. Boom, send it out. Nobody's
Yeah,
got time to read a paragraph on Twitter. You're only limited
for
to
sure.
so many characters, so make it
Yeah.
count.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I definitely use a whole lot is Facebook groups. Facebook groups are fantastic, and building relationships in there are great. Find other podcasters in your location, or find other, whatever media or whatever you like, and then sharing there and watching, listening, whatever there. But some things that I do like to use are auto like posting things. So I
Okay.
use Hootsuite and Buffer, and those I can set it at the beginning of the day. In the morning, I'm like, okay, what do I want to say today? what are some things that I want to get to? What am I trying to promote? Because I'm super into socials. I'm super into social media. Instagram is my biggest platform. Twitter now is going to be my biggest platform as well. But I'm super into socials right now. So those auto post to socials in the morning. I'm like, okay, here's the content I made. How can I, break it up? Hootsuite or Buffer. I put it up. I'm like, okay, post this at 2 p.m. Okay, post this at whatever. And I have social posts going on while I'm live. So like while I'm live on Twitch, I can't post about it. But with using those apps, Buffer mainly and Hootsuite, and there's a bunch of other ones where you can auto post on Instagram, auto post on Twitter, but and on Facebook as well. It's just like going live, or I'm live, I'm still live, whatever, all this stuff every hour or something, just to get more people in there. But I think the best way to promote your stuff is to not promote your stuff. It's really controversial, but I think you need to put a lot of your time into building relationships with people online, people that like the thing that you're talking about. You can look it up on Facebook. You can use keywords on Twitter.
No.
You can just say, what's today's podcast about? Today we're talking about podcasting. I would put into Twitter on the search bar, podcasting, see who's said podcasting, reply to them, mass reply to a lot of people. Be interested in them. Be interested in your audience first, your quote unquote audience first, and then drop your link later. So build relationships first, I think, is for me what's really helped me, and just be interesting in them. And they'll go to your profile and like, oh, this guy has a podcast. Oh, okay. Like, we'll talk about the latest Marvel movie. Sure. Endgame or whatever. Okay. You look up Endgame on Twitter. Who's talking about it? Everybody. Reply to them and then say, oh, that was really good. Oh, I like your opinion. Oh, what do you think about this? A few messages down. And then you say like, oh, I have a podcast about it this week. Want to check it out?
Yeah.
Okay. It might work. It might not. But building relationships, I think, is the best way to promote your stuff, as well as what we said already.
Yeah, definitely. You want to, be in the conversations before you start plugging your new podcast, before you start dropping it on your Twitter feed or whatnot.
Yeah.
You want to be engaged with people. You want to start interesting conversations. You want to start, conversations on social media that's going to garner some type of reaction from your fan base, and you're going to get people who are going to love your content. You're going to get people that disagree with you. And that's also good, because people who disagree with you, you have a different point of view. It's not saying that they're wrong. If they're respectful and they're just saying, well, I don't agree with you because of this reason. Okay, well, let's have a good, healthy discussion about it. You don't have to get upset because somebody didn't agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, hey, come on my next podcast and we'll talk about it. That's like an instant guess.
Exactly. I've done that before. Somebody had a disagreement with me and they didn't agree with what I said. Hey, let me have you on as a guest, on the next podcast, and let's talk about it. I still know that guy to this day,
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It's all good. Hey, we didn't agree, but it doesn't mean that I hate you as a person. I just didn't agree with your take. That's it, So we'll go ahead and end this live stream. It was it was a really good time having you on here.
Yeah.
It's something different. It's not, the usual thing that I talk about, which is sports.
Sure.
This is something that I want to continue as a series, bringing more people on and, showcasing everybody who's here in the local San Antonio community that's also involved in podcasting. So before I go ahead and end the live stream, where can people find you on Twitch and on social media so they can interact with you?
Sure. On Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, on Facebook at JulesTheHuman, at JULES the Human, on all social media. JulesTheHuman.com has all that, as well as and my bio and all the links to all my podcasts. JulesTheHuman.com, and on Twitch it's a little different. Twitch.tv/JulesTheHumanTV. That's the only thing at the end. JulesTheHumanTV. Look me up there, and I'm live Thursday through Sunday every 2 p.m. Central. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's always a pleasure. Like I said, it's fun just having it. Trying to discuss some other topics that are not revolving around entertainment, or movies for that nature, or video games. It has nothing to do with that. It's just about trying to spread some love, trying to spread some knowledge, and maybe help somebody else along the way. And I'm sure if anybody had any questions, in regards to starting out a podcast, they can always hit me or you up, and we'd be happy to kind of steer them in the right direction, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. Yeah, I love that. I love helping out people. That's like again what I also like love seeing other people send me their stuff. I
Yeah.
love people asking me about the stuff that I do because I just want to help. I want to see what people can do. I want y'all to, make things. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that it is. Creating content is something that, it's kind of like showing everybody what you can do. You have an
Mhm.
idea, you're bringing it to fruition, and it's a lot of things that people don't see that go beyond, you creating content. It's the struggles. It's what are you giving up? Time away from family, time away from, your significant other, whatever it might be, to deliver this content to people. And then when people validate you by saying, "Hey, I like that," or "I'm going to
Mhm.
follow you," or "I really like what you're doing," these words of encouragement mean a lot. It means
Oh
that
yeah.
what you're doing kind of has merit. Hey,
Mhm.
somebody is paying attention to me, even if it's the one person that you're getting your first follower. It makes you feel good. So don't
Yeah.
get discouraged. Just keep on going out there, even if you're playing to an empty audience right now. If
Mhm.
you're passionate about something, let your voice be heard. Go out there. Don't be scared. Everybody's been there before. But just be consistent, and your following will come. So on that note, we're gonna go ahead and end this live stream. So for Julian Escobedo, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching our live stream. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out. Peace.